Good morning. Barry Bryson here. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We're continuing our study of Matthew, and we're in a very familiar passage today, the passage in which Peter makes his confession at Caesarea Philippi. This is Matthew 16, verses 13 through 20. So let's go ahead and read this passage. When Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he began asking his disciples, saying, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." And he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of John, Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overpower it. And I will give you," not speaking just to Peter here, but to everybody, "the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you shall bind on earth shall have already been bound in heaven, and whatever you shall loose on earth shall have already been loosed in heaven." Then he warned the disciples that they should tell no one that he was the Christ. So much here. The setting, Caesarea Philippi. He has gone from one side of the Sea of Galilee across to Magadan, and now he's gone back north to Caesarea Philippi. This is far north. This is beyond the Sea of Galilee. This is to the headwaters of the Jordan River. The spring there that is the head that provides the initial water that will become, as tributaries flow into it, the Jordan River. It was a place of pagan worship. It was a place where there was an enormous grotto to Pan, the most important site of Pan worship in the Roman Empire. And so he's there among the idols, literally. And he says to the disciples, he asks two pertinent questions that he continues to ask of us. What does the world think about me? What are their perceptions of me? What are they saying? And that's important for us, continually important for us to know. Because especially for us, since Jesus is not walking the earth the way he was then, what the world will know of Jesus is what we allow the world to know of Jesus. And they knew the answer to that question. Some are saying you're John the Baptist, that he didn't really die, that his spirit is in you. Some Elijah. Elijah was the one who was supposed to announce the Messiah. We're told that in the very last phrases of the Old Testament, in the last verses of the book of Malachi. And they knew those verses by heart, the way we know John 3:16. And they were waiting for Elijah to return to announce the Messiah. So some see Jesus as the one who would announce the Messiah. Some say he's one of the prophets. Who among the people recognized Jesus as the Messiah? No one yet. They're ready to make him king, as we already know, but they are not ready to accept him as their Messiah. Then Jesus says, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter speaks up first, as he does, and Peter gives the right answer. "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus says a remarkable thing, because we know, having read John chapter 2, because John makes sure that we get that episode, and we have this fully fledged picture of how events took place, that when Peter was introduced to Jesus by his brother Andrew, Peter, before he was Peter, when he was still just Simon, he was introduced to Jesus as the Messiah. Andrew said, "Brother, this is the Messiah." And yet Jesus says, "Blessed are you," no, he didn't call him Peter, "Simon, son of John, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father in heaven." Saying that there was a comprehension inside him that he had because of his relationship with God, not because of his relationship with his brother. His faith was his own. It wasn't something that was just handed over to him. It was something that he had come to apprehend, to understand, because of his relationship with God. That in itself is a lesson about how our faith has to be our own faith. And then he talks about the importance of this confession, not the importance of Peter. You are Peter, the name Petros, rock. Okay? Kaphes in Cephas in Aramaic. You are Peter, and upon this rock, it's a different word, the rock of his confession, not on him, upon this rock of his confession, I'll build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. In other words, the church is the conquering force. The church has to be the leaven, not the lump, to refer back to what we talked about last time. And in the church, Jesus' kingdom will be irresistible. There's no way that the devil can bar the doors and keep Jesus from accomplishing his will. And then he talks to all of them. I'm giving you the keys of the kingdom. Peter, as he is almost always represented in medieval and Renaissance paintings, is a guy with a set of keys. And it's because of this passage. Sometimes he has a net too, because he's a fisher of men. But he always has the keys. But he's not talking about Peter having keys and Peter having the authority to make policy in heaven. It's quite the other way. He's saying to all the apostles, the things that you bind, the things that you loose, the things that you're going to communicate and establish have already been established and communicated in heaven. You're going to be my messengers to communicate my message to the earth after I am gone. And then he says to the disciples, don't tell anybody about this. And a lot of folks have wondered about this, if this is just management of his celebrity. I think it is time management. I think this is Jesus managing his time so that everything happens on schedule in his ministry. Okay, Peter is going to go from blessed to being Satan next time. We'll pick up with verse 21 when we're together at our next study. Thank you for joining me.